G'day guys, another one of my short info videos. This one is on the belted Magnum. Common misconception that a belted Magnum has the belt because that's what they had to do to make them stronger. It was about dealing with the Magnum pressures and more pressure, and so they needed a belt around the bottom of the case. For those who know what I'm talking about, haven't heard of it, the 300 Win Mag, the 7mm Rem Mag, the 338 Win Mag, even the likes of this, which is a 378 Weatherby Magnum, all are belted Magnums. And if you have a look there, you can see there's this little belt down the bottom of the case, the back of the case here. And like I said, a lot of people presume it was about more power or more strength. Nothing to do with more strength, actually. What I have here to point out what it's all about head space, because I have the two others, I suppose. What we started with, this is a rimmed cartridge, that's a 4570, it has a rim. It's known as a rimmed cartridge. It has this little rim sticking out the back here. And the other end of things is the more like the modern bottleneck cartridge or modern rounds. This is actually a 338 Pure, and this is called the rebate rim. Now, how it all works is when we started doing this, we head space. Now, what is the head space really talking about? What it actually is when you put a cartridge in a chamber, it goes into the chamber, and then it has the bolt closed behind it, something closed behind it, and it has a firing pin. To make this all work, the chamber needs to hold the brass neatly, but it needs something to stop it moving forward. In a rimmed cartridge, the rim is what it was. It actually sat hard against the rim, and then the bolt closed behind, or the action came up behind, and then the firing pin hit the primer, and what stopped it going forward so it made that primer work was the head spacing up against the rim. If we look at something like a modern cartridge, rimless, or not rimless, rebate rim, which essentially means there's nothing grabbing hold of the actual rim back here, where it head spaces from is the shoulder. So the chamber goes in, it is a bottleneck, so it has a shoulder up here, and that's where we actually head space against. So then the firing pin pushes against hits against this, and it's the shoulder that is actually holding that there, or head spacing against, so that's how it's done, the modern one. As the Magnum, the belted Magnums, or the belted cases came out, they were sort of a cross between. It's the very early days when these were really designed, and what they did is they used that belt there, wasn't about strength at all, that's where the head spacing was done. Because they're actually a rebate rim also, like the modern cartridge, and even though they're a bottleneck like the modern cartridge, some of them were, the first ones were actually straight walled, so the way they did their head spacing, or what it sat against to be able to fire the firing pin, was this belt. So that's what the belt was for, actually using for head spacing. But here's the key. Doing it that way, it works, but it runs in some other problems. There's a bulge that they get down the back there. There's issues of the fact that all the rest of the case is working away from that. There's all sorts of things that's about if you head space there and ignore the rest of it, as much as it was sort of designed to work that way, it doesn't need to work that way. The way I do it, and the way that you'll get the best performance out of a belted Magnum, is to ignore the belt. Basically, head space, or size your brass, you head space to the shoulder. Just like you do on a modern cartridge, head space to the shoulder, ignore the belt, you resize in whatever you're firing, whether you're just neck sizing or full length sizing, doesn't matter, you're really ignoring the belt. You're working as you head space from the shoulder. That works exactly the same as a modern case, and then they'll perform exactly like the modern designed cartridges, because you're using them in the same fashion, and ultimately the belt ends up being not much more than a cosmetic thing, and there's no negatives to a belted Magnum. Anyway, that's just a quick one. There are some semantics that go with this sort of stuff, and people are really into it, would be able to go further into it, but in the basics of it, treat them like a normal cartridge and they'll perform as well as, or better than, the modern cartridges, with no negatives attached to the belt. That's just a quick one for you. Thanks for checking in, guys. We'll catch you next time.